Welcome. Very special guests joining us today here on 90.9 The Bridge. I am joined by two members of the band Dry Cleaning, Flo and Lewis, who have taken their time to stop in today via Zoom and chat with us about, I hope just a good many things, though they have recently released their album New Long Leg on 4AD during the pandemic, which I'm sure was a fun process in it of itself. And we may talk about that here in a little bit. Can I just say first, though, that it was so fun researching the band because before I had just, as a fan, like a passing fan, was just listening to the music and digging it and vibing in my own way. And then when I got into the research and read about your background process, yours particularly, Flo, and how you kind of collect words and phrases to create your own mosaics and meanings. And I was like, aha, that's one of the reasons I love this band so much, because I love mosaics, right? So that's one of my favorite art forms. I mean, but would you agree with that? And for people who aren't familiar with your songwriting process, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a nice parallel, like what you're saying about mosaics in general, especially ones that are made of like old bits of ceramics or whatever. So it's sort of a new thing made up of a lot of old things. So it's kind of like making a new meaning out of sort of found stuff. So yeah, that makes sense to me. Like there's definitely like a parallel there between like the way I put words together and that kind of like image making. That is quite, it's a good explanation of what I do, really.
So cool. Yeah, it and I think it also flows very well with who you are, because initially, I don't think you, well, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't think you started out life thinking, hey, I'm gonna be in a rock band when I grow up, I mean, would that be accurate to say?
Yeah, not a born performer at all. Like, didn't really do anything like musical or performance wise, like when I was a teenager or even when I was like in my 20s, really. My dad used to be in a band, and so he had like a lot of like guitars and kind of different bits of musical equipment in the house when I was really little. So it's something that I feel comfortable around. Like he would always like let us sort of mess around with it, almost like as a sort of way of like playing together. And he was very like generous with it all. He was never precious about it. So that kind of instilled in me like a relaxed feeling around making music, really. But like I didn't really follow on from it beyond the age of like 7 or 8 or whatever. I just went and did art for the next sort of 15 years or so. It was not my plan.
Well, and you ended up. Oh,
so little of a plan that when we asked Flo to join the band, Flo still didn't want to be a musician. It took us a few goes to get her to come to a rehearsal, like maybe like 4 or 5 attempts.
That's awesome. I often find the best people in places of power are the people that didn't crave it. Maybe the best musicians, or maybe the people that you gotta like nudge them just a little bit.
I think like being the prime minister should be like jury duty or something. Do you know? Get elected one day and it's you, unfortunately, and you have to do it. I think we probably wind up in a bit of a better situation. But yeah,
I think that there is something definitely to that. And, and that was Lewis that we just heard from as well. If you're just now tuning in, we're speaking with Dry Cleaning today, Flo and Lewis from the band. And I will say then, so I didn't realize that your dad was in a band, Flo. And, in addition to really loving your music because of that kind of mosaic aspect, I also love it because there's nothing else that sounds quite like it. And I'm hoping that we're getting to a point where we don't have to box things into genres anymore, kind of in this day and age. But, Dry Cleaning, if you were going to put labels, you can't really. There's psych, there's funk, there's hardcore, there's punk. And, Lewis, I know you're kind of more into, from what I've read, like funk and kind of hardcore and metal. Then Flo, what kind of music did you grow up like? What are you into when you're not creating music with Dry Cleaning?
It's a tricky question. I listen to all kinds of stuff. Like my mum listened to stuff like when I was really little, she would listen to a lot of stuff like The Last Poets and things like that. Like Gil Scott Heron kind of records and things. But then I kind of then went off and listened to like loads of really awful nu metal when I was like
You didn't.
I was like 12 or 13, you know, like I spent a lot of years listening to seriously questionable music. But yeah, I listen to all kinds of stuff. I really like there's a guy called Brother May who's like a rapper. He's based in London who I really like. And actually there's an audiobooks tune that just came out. It's a band called Audiobooks, who are a British band, like a two-piece, and they just put out this song called The Doll, which is really good. That's my recommendation of the moment. But like I think, yeah, a real mix of stuff, to be honest. Yeah.
I will check out audiobooks now. I am intrigued because I am not familiar.
I'm excited for their album because it's like the first single off it, so it bodes well.
Lewis, conversely, would you say, I mean, are you still, is funk and metal kind of like where your love still lies, or has the band kind of,
When you say funk and metal, I want to separate the two. There's no funk metal in my collection.
yeah, no, yeah,
There's a lot of like funk and soul. My dad like force fed me a lot of. He still DJs a lot of kind of like soul nights. He runs his own club night, and he's got a very strong vinyl collection of soul, funk, and disco. So I've always had that around. And then when I was in my late teens, getting into metal and kind of heavier stuff, and kind of expanded from that. And then there's only so much metal I listen to now. There's only a handful of bands. Most of my time listen to a lot of Neil Young, really. Most nights I have a hug from Neil Young before I go to bed.
I wouldn't say that fits into funk or metal,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
I think, the funk thing, I think, is my fault. Do you remember this? Remember where this originated? I'm not saying that Lewis does not like funk, but I did an interview for an in-flight magazine for an airline like years ago, which was the weirdest interview ever. And we got that question that was like, what music do you listen to? And I totally panicked. And I was like, Lewis really likes funk. And then afterwards I was like, basically just trying to, I don't know what I was going for, but like I sort of said funk, and then it has come up a few times, and it's like, I think it's because of that one interview. But again, not to say that Lewis doesn't like funk, but yeah.
We was on Bootsy Collins' Cameo page the other day. So
Well, and you talk. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Surprisingly affordable, a Cameo.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I will say that, so you mentioned a few years ago and doing interviews a few years ago, and you all have been together since, I guess, late 2017, 2018. So it really hasn't been that long in the span of bandhood. And, again, you all had varying different careers. Like Flo, I know that you taught at uni for a bit, in addition to a bunch of different odd jobs. Did your students know you were in a rock band when you were a teacher?
They did, yeah, because actually I used to teach with Tom. Me and Tom taught on the same illustration course, and we started doing the band at the same time as that. So sometimes it would come up. But I don't think they were very interested, to be honest. I think we kind of came across as a bit sad. Like, you know what I mean? They were like about 18 years old and we just seemed like total dinosaurs. So like we were doing this band and they'd be like, kind of roll their eyes. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh God, all right, Dad. So, I mean, I think that was more the vibe. But, like since things have picked up a bit, like we have chatted to some of our old students and like they're very sweet and very supportive. So like, yeah, it's really nice.
No weird like playing out at a bar and like all of the words that happen to come out in those early EPs and like your students being like in the audience.
I don't think they'd be surprised. No awkward moments like that. They were all such lovely people. There would never be any weirdness. They were, bumpy.
Best moment for your lyrics was when we played in the library that time, and we were playing the first two EPs. This was before the album, and the front row was like 5 to 10 year olds.
It was awful. Like I don't know. Yeah, it was very difficult. They all had these giant ear defenders on, so they looked like they were all working in an airport or something. Red headphones, all sort of looking up at me with these sort of like angelic faces. And I mumbled a few of the lines, put it that way. I'm just going to kind of like cover this slightly because I couldn't take it. It felt too brutal.
That's awesome. Okay. I mean, but you signed to 4AD kind of right like in 2019. And so you're that point, and I don't know, especially out in the UK, like things were kind of hitting around then too. Like, did that interfere with the signing and the plans as far as kind of things taking off?
We were really fortunate. I feel like if we were like a year or maybe even 6 months later than everything happened, everything would have got delayed. But we signed to 4AD just before the pandemic, and then we kind of did a publishing deal with Warp, kind of just as the pandemic kind of started, kind of really. And we got to like in a few tours as well. We got in a few dates in North America, just as the pandemic. We were probably super spreaders. That's why I keep hearing it. Everywhere we went, it closed down when we left. It was like we did 2 shows in New York, and then it was like New York's closed down, and then it was like let's go to Seattle. There, it was closed down, and then we was in LA, and it looked like a disaster movie. Like it rained the whole time, which I'm sure doesn't happen in LA.
You brought the rain too, yeah.
The rain and COVID, people.
Can't wait for you to come to Kansas City.
Yeah. Let us know what you want us to bring. Locust.
All right. I think locust maybe more than no. Like it'll be great. It'll be wonderful. And we do look forward to having you come to Kansas City. That being, I mean, you did write New Long Leg though then during the pandemic. And I had read that the way that you kind of pieced it together before you went into the studio, like I'm picturing like a dark parking lot with a Tascam like slipped through a tiny slot in a window. Like how did that really go down?
It was passed through so you're referring to the tape machine, which we recorded lots of parts to. There was the lack of trust you had for the rest of the band. Like I'd be like Dettol and like wipes, like wiping down the power supply when they got to my house, like they're for the jams, they're covered in jams. But it was passing it through car windows and then just writing in our rooms, which kind of impacted the album quite a lot. We all kind of had a lot more time to kind of focus on our parts, kind of allowed more space and kind of more dynamics as well, because you can kind of be more in control rather than kind of in a loud rehearsal room. The drummer Nick started using a drum machine because he has neighbors and he'd get kicked out of his flat if he started drumming. And then that all kind of transferred onto the album in a really nice way.
And then you ended up working then. Was that the first time you had worked with John Parrish to do A New Long Leg? John Parrish, who's also produced like people like PJ Harvey at this little studio in Wales. Do you want to talk about that at all?
It's the first time we met him.
Yeah, I was going to say, not just the first time we worked with him, first time we met him. Like we had like some Zoom calls as you do. And so we met him on the first day we arrived there and recorded Unsmart Lady on that same day. So it was very like in at the deep end, but we got on really well, which we sort of knew we would, just because he's a very kind of straightforward, very affable, very kind of cool guy. So it wasn't a surprise, but it was just, it was pretty crazy to just meet him and then immediately be recording. It was nice.
We dealt with all our stupid questions over Zoom, like not about recording, being like, so what do we do about lunch? And he'd be like, do you want to know anything about the studio?
That is a very important question.
What time is lunch? Is it the same time every day? Do we cook? So he kind of knew what he had in store for himself. So yeah, he'd prepared.
Geofreeze, let's wait for the results from the geofreeze. Just an emo dead stuff collector, things come to the brain. Spent £17 on mushrooms for you, 'cause I'm silly. Just an emo dead stuff collector, things come to the brain. This week is Holy Week. I just want to tell you I've got scabs on my head. It's useless to live. I've been thinking about eating that hot dog for hours. don't ask. It's useless to live. I just want to tell you I've got scabs on my head. Made me realise my only ambition in life is to grip the roots of your hair. You just want to be liked. Tin-glazed earthenware, flower book painted in blue on a sloping edge of vase of flowers. On the front, a Chinese landscape. On the sides, figures in a Dutch landscape. It's Europe. Foreground at the bottom is a famous anamorphic which, when viewed sidelong, is revealed to be a human skull. It seems like a lot of garlic. Long, lean, young, lovely. You just want to be liked. I like you, stay. It's Europe. Just a dead stuff collector. Things come to the brain. Too much to ask about. So don't ask.
You had talked about how the lyrics, again, kind of mosaic building, like you had brought these phrases together. Well, actually, why don't I just let you? Can you talk about that song in relation to empowerment?
So it's sort of, yeah. When I was first writing it, I wanted to use a phrase that's or phrases or language that's usually used as sort of disparaging language that's meant to make you feel bad about the way you look or your sort of grooming or whatever. And I kind of wanted to use it in quite a strident sort of rock song, just because, yeah, I kind of felt like that was a nice juxtaposition, and also kind of wanted to try and perform it in a way that that's kind of prideful, like not to try and slightly turn the idea of like sort of people commenting on your weight or your sort of, yeah, your grooming, and trying to be sort of proud about how you are rather than worried about it. But yeah, it was kind of a vague idea of that sort. And then a lot of the other sort of lines were inspired by sort of remembering and also just generally experiencing at the time, like doing lots of different jobs and just being quite like physically exhausted a lot of the time. And but yeah, still trying to sort of hold your head up high in that way, like when you're just kind of like really knackered but just trying to make things work. Like a lot of that sort of atmosphere sort of permeated some of the lines in that song. Yeah. If that makes sense.
It absolutely does, and I love that so much. Could you also explain to our audience what a Kerry bog pony is?
Oh, it's a little tough pony. It's an Irish pony. So Kerry is a county in Ireland, and it's a pony that's, I think it's endangered now, which is sad. But it's got sort of like quite long, shaggy hair, and it's sort of built to survive in harsh conditions.
That's awesome. Good. I love that song. Oh, and then also I do just really quickly want to touch on Scratch Card Lanyard as well, because you enlisted, or I don't know how this came about, but Rottingdean Bazaar came in for that video, and how did that process like come about? Because oh man, those surrealistic aspects. Did you know that? I mean, you were into art. Did you know them already, or how was that? How did that happen?
We'd never met them, but I just followed their work for quite a long time, and they seemed just a really good fit somehow. Like the sort of sense of humor and the sort of mundanity of some of the imagery that they like to use seemed to sort of chime with a little bit of the tone of our band and that song in particular. But yeah, they sent us some I think what sort of clinched it, they sent us some mock-ups of their idea that were very compelling.
We had like one Zoom with them, and they were like, we spoke about the song and some ideas, and then like, a few days later we had another Zoom, and then they kind of like screen shared, whatever it is, and they showed us, was it Duran Duran? Yeah, in that doll's house, they'd like put the band, and we were like, yes. And that was kind of it. And then we kind of just went to Brighton a few weeks later and filmed it, and it was like, yes. And everything about it was amazing. They were incredible.
It's such a cool video. If you're just now tuning in, we're talking to Dry Cleaning, and the video that we are talking about is for their video Scratch Card Lanyard, which is also on the album New Long Leg, which is their latest album, just came out on 4AD earlier this year. And Tilly Shiner directed Unsmart Lady. You know, we talked about that one as well, which is also just perfect in its filmography and the flow with the track. And it just feels like that cool late 70s vibe while also being somewhat foreboding. So good choices all the way around.
She did a really good job in that video. It's beautifully filmed, I think.
Yeah,
the carpet shop was that was a Lewis Maynard original idea.
I thought, like, with the pandemic kind of hopefully coming to an end, I kept thinking about places that aren't open yet that we could film in that you kind of normally can't. And for some reason, the carpet shop came up. Flo had mentioned lots of carpet references while talking about the song, and describing how she wanted the video to look. And I was like, a carpet shop. And then we all kind of realized we all love carpet shops. And while in there, we realized that Tom, the guitarist, really loves carpet shops.
Right? Did you pry him out of there eventually? I'm assuming he's not still there.
Happy memories, you know. When you're a kid and you go carpet shopping, I haven't really been to a carpet shop since I was really small. So it was quite nice. You
get to touch lots of stuff and everything moves. Yeah. As a kid, as an adult, it's great as well. But yeah.
Oh man, it's very tactile experience. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. Well, Flo and Lewis of Dry Cleaning, it has been such an incredible pleasure to talk to you today. Thanks so much for sharing your stories and your music. And we look forward to seeing you in Kansas City. I cannot wait for that time.
Thank you. Yeah, we really hope we can come soon. It'd be really nice.
Yes. All right. Again, Dry Cleaning here today on 90.9 The Bridge.